So our final speaker is Auðbjörg Halldórsdóttir from the Icelandic Crisis Response Unit, who will talk about Iceland's contribution and humanitarian assistance in Syria. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, and many thanks to the previous speakers, especially to you, Arvind, for making my speech sound so much duller than it was to begin with. We'll get back to that later. So I come from the Directorate of International Development Cooperation at the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, and I want to tell you a little bit about Iceland, what Iceland is doing in the context of humanitarian assistance and the Syria crisis. So I think I will first say a little word on the framework that we work within, just to begin by being dull and boring. So the International Development Cooperation is an integral part of Iceland's foreign policy. And the current strategy for international development cooperation is for the period of 2013 to 2016. The strategy covers multilateral and bilateral cooperation, as well as humanitarian assistance and reconstruction and peace building. As has already been said by the Minister today, the Icelandic government decided on a substantial increase in funding relating to the refugee crisis. In total, the Icelandic government decided to allocate 14 million euros over a period of 15 months. And the allocation of the funds will include sizable increase to donation of the work of different UN agencies and NGOs working in the field. Also go towards strengthening Iceland's capacity to receive and welcome more refugees, whether it be through the UNHCR or those arriving via other channels. The MFA, or the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, will be in charge of allocating the funds going towards assisting the work of the international organizations and the NGOs. So the funding will be channeled through key organizations working in the field of humanitarian assistance in Syria and its neighboring countries, such as Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. And we'll go to different UN agencies, for example, UNHCR, OCHA, Emergency Response Funds, World Food Programme, UNICEF, Red Cross, etc., plus the NGOs. Since 2011, when the Syria crisis broke, Icelandic funding has been increased towards agencies and programs dealing with various aspects of Syria crisis and the refugee crisis in different parts of the world. And I think it has, I don't have my slides up now. The number has more or less doubled since 2012. And the amount that we will have for 2015, after having received the increase from the government, will again be bigger this year, 2016. And this is also in line with Iceland's development strategy, which emphasizes support to the Middle East area and the most vulnerable groups, as well as, of course, Africa and the least developed countries, as has already been pointed out here. The refugee crisis, albeit big in relation to the Syria crisis, are found in many, many other places in the world. Now, emergency and humanitarian assistance amounts currently to around 6% of Iceland's total ODA. But I think I can say in general that the humanitarian assistance represents an increasingly important part of Iceland's development policy, and especially given the current developments and crisis around the world. The funding has gone towards supporting various agencies and projects, including food assistance, general emergency and medical supply assistance, protection, fight against gender-based violence, etc. When it comes to humanitarian assistance, of course, and has been mentioned there by Arvind, Iceland subscribes, of course, to the humanitarian principles of humanity, impartiality, and independence of humanitarian assistance. Goes without saying. We emphasize also the importance of gender-based approach in all humanitarian assistance, and effectiveness and access to humanitarian assistance, which is actually a very big deal in today's discussions. As mentioned before, the focus on the work is on the work of key UN agencies, international organizations, and NGOs working in the field of humanitarian assistance. So I mentioned the World Food Programme already, the UN Central Emergency Response Fund, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, another name, UNHCR, the International Red Cross. Iceland supports other UN agencies, of course, as well, which play an important role in international development cooperation, as well as emergency and humanitarian assistance, such as UN Women, UNRWA in Palestine, UNFPA, UNDP, and FAO. Humanitarian assistance is also channeled through Icelandic NGOs who can apply for funding to the MFA, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, although this funding is not specifically earmarked for humanitarian assistance, but is also for developing projects. The Icelandic Crisis Response Unit, ICRU, which you probably know under the name of Íslenska friðargæslan, is also a part of the humanitarian assistance work that we do at the ministry. And it works in the field of peace building and reconstruction in conflict-affected countries, and consists of contributions to multilateral organizations and secondments of civilian experts to the field. So ICRU has seconded experts to organizations working in the Middle East region, such as UNRWA, UNDP, UNICEF, UN Women, and others. ICRU also takes part in what is called the UN Standby Partnership Program, which is based on a partnership between UN agencies and national agencies such as ICRU or NRC, which provides short-term staffing to field operations to meet emergency gaps when they arise. And currently we have about 9 people in the field with the ICRU, and a number of them are in the Middle Eastern region. So maybe some thoughts at the end, because I'm not the 15-minute speaker, I'm the 5-minute speaker. As our guests have already said and explained, the international community is faced by enormous challenges, and the need for humanitarian assistance has never been bigger than it is today. And the situation, as it is, it cannot be dealt with through humanitarian assistance alone, and the nexus between humanitarian assistance and development cooperation has really never been clearer. The chronic lack of funds to development cooperation ups the request for humanitarian assistance. Of course, in many countries, this is a complex situation, mixed situation, but both aspects really need to be addressed much more adequately. So basically, there are no easy solutions to the situation we're facing. I mean, I think that has been said very clearly here today. But there's clearly very serious amount of work to be done, and hopefully some of these discussions will take place at the World Humanitarian Summit later this spring. But Iceland, though it may be small, has a work to do, and we must be a part of this. That's it.